Today's video, we're going to talk about why ClickGuard, the PPC fraud, click fraud software, is better than the Clickcease click fraud software for PPC and PPC Protect. So if you were kind of wondering which of these softwares you should get, this video should answer not just in an overall way. And this video is made by somebody who is a review channel, who doesn't know anything about actual PPC strategy and all this stuff. It comes from somebody who runs a PPC agency that has had hundreds of clients, tried these different softwares, understands strategy in the top 1% of people that do PPC strategy. To put it into perspective, if you even need the PPC click fraud software for one, but two, which of these softwares actually might be the best option for you. So anyway, I'm going to go into detail on all of this on this particular video, and we'll get into it. So if you've watched my other videos about click fraud software, which if you're considering click fraud software and you haven't used it yet, I would start off there, by the way, because there's some fundamental things you need to know about click software. The quick and dirty on that is, I mentioned on my other videos, I only have a couple other videos about click fraud software, but I mentioned it in general in these other videos, click fraud is actually only a problem in certain niches out there. What happens is Clickcease has had a lot of funding and put together this huge in-house terror department, which is their marketing and advertising department, where they go out there and they email people and they make you think the reason why your PPC campaign results suck is because you don't have their click fraud software or you're having click fraud. And the reality is 98% of you guys doing PPC, it's not a problem, or 95% or something along those lines. I don't know the exact percentage, but most of you guys don't even need the software to begin with, the click fraud software. And so, you know, they get in your head. They know if they email you at the right time and you're just frustrated enough with your PPC at that time, and you might just automatically assume your problem's related to click fraud, and then you get into paying for click fraud software, which now it's like a placebo effect, right? Just like taking a sugar pill. This pill is supposed to make my other member bigger. You take it, wow, it really is big. Really, if you did that and you sold sugar pills to people, 20, 30, 40, 50% of the people would think it would work itself by having nothing but sugar in that pill. The click fraud software is pretty much the same way. To tell you the truth, you could type in click fraud click fraud snake oil. I made a video about this, but as well. But if you could type in Google, is click fraud snake oil Reddit? There's other PPC experts out there who, you know, in general will give you not just my opinion on it, but other people's opinions. So you don't have to just rely on mine. Is it snake oil? And generally speaking, the general sentiment is that it is snake oil, because not just because of it can be useful in certain situations, but specifically how it's marketed to people who are novices. It's just like, you know, a hot blonde goes in to get her car fixed at the car mechanic. The car mechanic says, "Oh boy, we're going to make a killing on this one. You need you need blinker fluid. You need a brand new tie rod filter, all this other bullshit." And they just start. They're selling to you guys who aren't in the know about PPC a false solution. So anyway. Now, what markets where it is useful is where you're going to have high CPC markets, particularly in service markets. In the e-commerce space, there's so many clicks, basically, that if they would have to click your ads so many times for you to notice anything with your overall PPC spend, that it would just be too hard to do. Because click fraud takes effort. It takes a network of people, or it takes something called a botnet to do that. And effectively, it's the more clicks you have to do to, drain someone's budget, the harder it becomes, the more expensive it becomes. The higher the cost per click you're paying, the easier it is to click fraud you. If you're paying $30 per click and you're a local market where you only get several hundred clicks a month, and you can put together a network where you could click someone's ads a couple hundred times. That takes out half of your profits. That could be the make or break of whether you think your ads are profitable or not. And generally what they do is when you first start out, they see someone new, they already have a system set up to click fraud the new guys. They click fraud the shit out of their ads. Then they say, oh, Google doesn't work. And then they quit and then they're done, which is way cheaper, which it costs them still a lot of money to put that click fraud system in place to click fraud the person, but way cheaper than competing against all these new guys in my market all the time who wants to try Google ads by far. So that's what they do. And they not only do that, they'll go in, they've gotten sophisticated, they'll go in, click on your ad, fill out what looks like a lead, and the lead's bullshit, basically. So you don't catch on that you've been click frauded till way down the line, and you've looked at the lead quality and the closing rate on your leads and all that. So from that standpoint, that's where most of the click fraud comes. Sometimes they'll try to click fraud you long term to knock you out, but more so it's about click frauding you fast and up front to get rid of you quickly, because even if it costs a lot of money in terms of click fraud up front to get rid of you, not having another competitor for the next 5 years is still cheaper than that click fraud. Versus if you're already established, you know Google Ads works. If you start click frauding somebody and your performance goes down for a month, you're not just going to stop. You're going to say, oh, it's a short-term thing. So you're going to have to click fraud somebody for like 6 months straight when they already probably scaled up their ad budget already. And it's going to take a whole lot more money in terms of resources to click fraud the person. So anyway, long story short, if you are doing services, generally it's in the service markets where you'll get the super high cost per clicks. Stuff like, PPC services is one, virtual telephone services, sales training services, hire CEO, executive outsourcing services. A lot of these professional services, as well as local services like water damage restoration and pest control. You'll see in those markets, you'll see clicks of 20, 30, 40 bucks. And some of these national services like the telephony services, it can get up to $100 a click just for one click, believe it or not. And it's worth it ultimately if you just set up your stuff right. Otherwise, Google wouldn't get away with charging that much, if you're wondering why it's that high. But anyway, the higher it is, the more they can drain from you for every single click. You could think about it this way. Every single time that they got to click fraud you, given that Google has its own click fraud systems, it's going to cost your competitor or whoever's doing it to you money, which generally 99% of the time it's a competitor doing it to you. So it might cost them, $3 per click to click fraud you. So, but if they're draining you $30 for every time they pay $3, you see the economics can potentially work out there. So the more that you have to pay for a per click in your market, the more likely it is that somebody is going to be able to successfully click fraud you. Maybe nobody in your market's doing that. And a lot of markets though, where there's a high CPC and there's a lot of money on the line, personal injury law is one where it's a really big problem. You'll get for sure someone to try to click fraud you the first few months of starting up your ads in a personal injury space, because if you actually get Google Ads to work in personal injury law in a decent sized city, you could make $30 million a year. So of course there's going to be people willing to do weird shit in order to just get another 10% of the slice of the market. It's another $3 million a year in sales. You don't think that there's at least one person in your market willing to do that to you, which they're not going to get caught. There's no way they're going to get caught. It's like the only limit is somebody a bastard, one, to do it, and two, do they have the technical means to do it, because that still is a barrier, and three, do they have the money? The money issue is no longer there because you're talking about a lot of money in it itself. Technical wise, well, there's so much money in it itself that they can go hire somebody who knows how to do it. And three, are they a bastard? Well, we know the jokes about lawyers. So, in general, of course, there's going to probably be one skeezy lawyer that would do that. So anyway, if you're in a market, generally speaking, if you're paying over $10 a click fraud can be an issue. It's not going to be an issue in every case. Certain niches that have high cost per click have it and some don't. I gave you some examples where I've seen it where it was a problem before. So what you have to do is you just got to do what follow my videos to do the PPC right. Once you know that you have the right landing page, you have the right ads, and you still can't get it to work, now click fraud software, you can go and explore and see if that's the weak link. So if you're in a market where you need the click fraud software, if we have established this, ClickGuard, the click fraud software ClickGuard, is a much better option for making sure you are only blocking the type of traffic you need. And that is non-brand traffic. Brand traffic is a key part of any online advertising campaign as long as your CPCs as long as your brand terms are not arbitrary and your CPCs are sky high, which isn't most of you, as it's a key in that the brand keywords that you should be advertising on are a key part of to have an efficient sales funnel for your company. So I have a lot of clients that fight me on this. They say, I'm not going to pay for money for people to click on my brand ad when they search for me using my brand terms on Google. And the reason why you are going to actually advertise through Google search ads and on your brand terms or brand name, trade name, product names is because if you're going to spend all this money on online advertising to get somebody who does not know about you to know about you, convinced to buy, all the way through the sales process up to the point where they have to wait till, let's say, they get paid or whatnot, or ask their wife. Later on when they go to buy, they're going to try to type in your brand name or your product name, all excited to buy, and a lot of times they're not going to remember the exact spelling of your brand name, which if you run brand ads, you'll know what I'm talking about because you can go into your search query data report and you'll see all the misspellings of your brand name. They're in every possible way imaginable. And even if you think you have an easy to spell brand name or easy to remember brand name, it'll still be screwed up a ton. In that situation where they're going to buy at the last second and they type in your brand name and get it a little bit off and you don't show up right away and you got all this other shit to click on Google, you're just begging to have somebody that now has the money who knows they're going to be buying a brand new broom to just buy somebody else's broom at that point in time. So you wasted all this time and money and effort to build the perfect funnel to convince somebody who wants a broom to want to buy a broom. And then at the last second, you didn't spend the little extra money it would have took to make sure that person can find you at the last second right before they were going to buy. That in itself is just arrogance and being an idiot, basically. So what I meant by this other stuff is there are some situations where you can't necessarily or wouldn't want to maybe bid on your brand terms. To give you one example is in my market here, we run a PPC services firm. I don't want to bid on my brand terms. Back in the day, it wasn't the case. Recently, Google figured out so many people are searching for our brand that why don't we just, and the people who want PPC services, why don't we charge way more money for that term? Given Guaranteed PPC is the name of our brand, Guaranteed PPC is something that people search when they're not just looking for us, but looking for PPC services. So in essence, what they've done is they've raised the cost of bidding on Guaranteed PPC as a brand term for us to the point where we had to pay $20 a click to get our brand ad there. So in essence, it's still worth it, but if you're in that type of situation, you're essentially having to pay for that customer twice. You had to pay for them once to market to them and get in front of them the first time, and then when they go to buy, you got to pay for them again, essentially doubling your acquisition cost. Doubling your acquisition cost at that point may not be worth having the brand ad to make the bottom of your sales funnel where they go to buy at the last second worth it for you. So you have to just weigh that out. Generally speaking, if you're paying 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks a click on a brand term, that in itself generally where it becomes not worth it. But out of all of our clients and literally every single client that I've had, we've never had to where their brand terms were 20 bucks a click. For some reason, well, it would make sense in our PPC market, of course, other PPC experts are bidding for PPC services, so everybody, it really bids up the price in our market, but this shouldn't be you. So for basically everybody watching here, you need to be bidding on your brand terms to make other advertising you're doing essentially work, and you should be looking at online advertising as you're building a sales funnel. You're doing certain things to get awareness, you're doing certain things to build credibility and eliminate objections and then close the sale. And people will click on one ad and find you one day to get awareness, and then click on another ad one day to get reviews about your company, and then click on an ad one day to compare you to competitors, and then click on an ad, and you could set up a whole system in that, depending on what part of the stage of buying somebody is in your market, you're going to have a message that caters to them. And so if you don't have the brand ads at the bottom part of the sales funnel before they buy, you're going to have a leaky funnel, and you're going to end up making the overall top of your funnel way less efficient without the bottom of the funnel, to where there's no holes in the bottom of the funnel. So why do I bring that up is so therefore, brand terms are a key part to get an online advertising program for your company to work efficiently and to work well and get the full amount from it and get overall more from an ad budget than you could have got otherwise. And so what these click fraud softwares, Clickcease and PPC Protect, don't do is they don't let you to differentiate who you want to be block or consider blocking versus not, down specifically at the ad group level. So I don't want to be running a click fraud software and then Clickcease decides, because a lot of this is done at the IP address level. They're looking at the IP address of all the people coming to your website, and then they say, hey, look, this person who came from 129.26.24.168, he came to the website once before, and he only stayed 10 seconds, and he's trying to come to the site again. Block. Well, as you know from what I just explained to you, the really good PPC advertisers out there, they're going to be running a funnel. They're not going to just try to sell you either immediately or none at all, because people don't think and decide like that. And the more expensive your product or service is, the longer the time it's going to be from the time that they initially do the research on you or in your market in general and buy. So with that said, if you're going to look at trying to block somebody from coming back to your site again, which would pretty much guarantee that if somebody's trying to click on your ad more than once and click fraud you that way, obviously that would block it. But by doing that, you're also blocking the people who are going to naturally want to come back to your site again, because they need to come to your site several times naturally to decide if they're going to do business with you and just in general do business with you in general. So as it comes to that, I don't care if they've been to my site 50 times for my brand terms, because every single time they search for my brand name and got to my site, they're going to be 2 or 3 times more likely to buy every time that they've been to that, typed in my brand keyword, clicked on my ad, and come to my site and buy. And a lot of times it is going to be, they're going to come back to your site and type in your brand name and come to your site multiple times before they buy. I don't want to run a click fraud analysis on people typing in my brand name to come to my site, because in general, the search behavior too much is that they're going to be coming back multiple times. And the click fraud software is going to block my opportunity. Going back to what I said before, a lot of these people can't remember what the brand name, how it's spelled, or what it exactly is. It's going to be able to help the person along that typed it in wrong. Google, through the brand keywords I have, help me guide them back to my website. I don't want anybody getting away from somebody typing in my brand name and buying from me. So with ClickGuard, you can actually decide down to the ad group level what you want to run a click fraud analysis on and what you do not. And so you could just run the click fraud analysis on non-brand campaigns, non-brand keywords. And if you run all your keywords in exact match, basically this works very, very well, because because a lot of people don't realize, if you look at your search terms data in your account, brand keywords will show up, if you're selling brooms for sale, going back to my previous example, they'll type in your brand name and then brooms for sale, and then even though your keyword was brooms for sale, you'll get somebody who typed in your brand name with brooms for sale to have the ad triggered for that particular keyword that did not have the brand keyword in it. So if you had a click fraud software going on your site, that person who ultimately was a brand searcher was blocked as well. And that would happen if you're running like phrase match or broad match, which I don't even think anybody should do broad match anyway. And I have a video about that if you want to know more about that. But in general, if you run all your keywords in exact match, people typing in your brand name and some variation, maybe they'll type in your brand name and then a product name or brand name and then what you sell or whatever, that's all confined to a specific brand campaign that you have. And then with that, you can make sure the people that want to type in your brand name to find you, they can do it as many times as they want. Whereas the rest of your campaigns that are non-brand keyword related, you can define that they can only come to my site once and once only. And so what we would do a lot of times with, for instance, in the water damage restoration space on a local market, which click fraud, there's a big problem of click fraud in that market specifically, we would make sure that, again, if they're typing in water damage restoration, they're not typing in our client's brand keyword, they either have to come to that site and call right away or not. And mainly that is because they're not going to have to come back to my site multiple times to decide if they're going to call. So to eliminate, weighing, the different things here that we have to weigh, we want to block all the click fraud people from clicking on our ads and racking up a $30 cost per click every time one of our competitors clicks our ads. We'll make it harder for them to click fraud us by just making sure that from one IP address, they can only come to our site one time from a non-brand search. If they want to come back to our site from a brand search, which it's not $30 a click anymore, it's like $1 a click, then they can come back as many times as they want. And if somebody's going to click fraud you, they're going to click fraud you on the expensive keywords, not the cheap brand keywords. So therefore, you don't have to scrutinize the brand traffic anyway. With all that said, another thing to consider here, if somebody really does need to come back to your site many, many times to buy, you have a really expensive product. With that said, you don't want to use click fraud software at all because, again, these click fraud softwares go on, hey, people should only be able to come to the site multiple times, and then we're blocking them from seeing our ads. And if they need to come back to your site multiple times before they decide, because you have a very expensive product that's also probably very technical, then you're not going to want to necessarily use click fraud software. So click fraud software is good in high CPC markets, like I said, and service markets where you pretty much generally are going to decide whether you're going to contact that company by phone, by email, or not. And with that, after they've came to your site and they didn't decide to call you or email you, you can block them, and then that becomes a pretty good method of getting rid of the competitors that are trying to click on your ads fraudulently. In the situations where you're talking about products, technical products where they have to come back to your site many times before they decide to buy, click fraud software isn't good because they just, again, they have to come back to your site many times, so it's hard to differentiate, in other words, the fraud clicks versus the legitimate clicks when the legitimate people have to come back to the site many times. So differentiating a fraud click from a legitimate click is too hard. Not to mention, again, if the cost per click is very low, they're not very likely to do it to you in the first place because the cost to click fraud you in the first place would be so high that they're probably not going to do it. There certainly is a certain cost to click fraud you for every fraudulent click they're going to give you. And if you're paying $1 per click or $2 per click, it just certainly, the math doesn't work out a lot of times to do it to you. Whereas if you're paying $20, $30 a click, like I said, it is. So in summary, ClickGuard is better because you can actually define which ad groups you want to apply your click fraud blocking to, and you can relegate that to non-brand campaigns so that brand campaigns when people want to come back to you and find you, given that's an important part of creating a sales funnel for your brand through the advertising that you're doing, that you don't block people at the last second that are trying to come buy from you. And if you need to click fraud is a problem in your market, you can actually still do it and not do it on your brand campaigns, do it on your non-brand campaigns. And do pretty much what most of my clients are doing, like I said, is IP address or user from one IP address can only see and click on my ad once. After that, they're not going to be able to click on our ads again. And that is a way to mitigate a lot of the click fraud that would happen in a high CPC service type market where click fraud actually is occurring in your market, if that makes sense. So anyway, I know there's a lot of other things I could have covered here, but from a practical standpoint, this is the main thing that I see are screwing up on as it comes to click fraud. There's certain times where somebody has to come back to your site many, many times. You can't use click fraud in a situation where legitimately they either have to contact you or not, and you could be blocking people if they don't respond to you right away and so that they can't come back again. Click fraud software can help if you've got actual click fraud happening in your market, but still you want to not do that on your brand campaigns, because that'll mitigate any gains you get from blocking the click fraud by making it harder for people at the last second to find you through your brand name and the misspelling of the brand name and so forth, and legal names that they may search for you that way that you have. And so the other stuff, there's a lot of other stuff that is different about Clickcease and PPC Protect, the ClickGuard, but from my professional experience, it's applying the click fraud software to a brand campaign or not using a brand campaign. You should use a brand campaign, and then you should exclude click fraud software from the brand campaign if you think you got click fraud in your market. And so that is why I would use click fraud or ClickGuard versus Clickcease and PPC Protect. I won't go through all this stuff again. I think you got the general idea here. Most of you guys don't need it. If you need it, ClickGuard is the one. Don't apply it to your brand campaigns. Use exact match so that all your brand searches are relegated to your brand campaign. And for the most part, of course, on your non-brand, if you're in a market where you're doing lead generation, you can block people from coming in back and seeing it and clicking on your ad a second or third or fourth time using your ClickGuard against your non-brand campaigns. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a lot of other videos on this channel about other PPC strategies where you can make a lot of money with PPC. I don't know of any other information on YouTube that has as much actionable advice as I give on this channel about how to make money with Google ads, PPC, Facebook ads, and so forth. So therefore, if you want to make a ton of money with PPC, you should definitely subscribe and follow and try the stuff that I'm giving you on this channel, as this is the exact stuff that we're using at our PPC agency and finding that works through the heavy testing that we're doing on an ongoing basis. And we also give you the stuff to stay away from that's causing you to lose money, that's lost our clients money through the testing that we've done on an ongoing basis. Because we give it to you here on this channel, such as the click fraud software and what we mentioned about brand campaigns and all that jazz of this particular video. If you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you would give it a like. And with that, if you want more information on how to build PPC campaigns, the way that we build them at our PPC agency to guarantee our clients' results, since that's what we do at our firm, you can find our blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog, where I've written a personal blog there where we go over the exact way that we set up campaigns for clients that guarantee results and will beat your competitors essentially every time. So if you're looking for supplemental information, more detailed step-by-step stuff versus the high-level stuff we cover on this channel, you can find extra information there. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, click fraud software that you're considering, about any of these softwares, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel. Last thing I want to mention is we have a brand new PPC program at our firm where we're offering turnkey PPC campaigns, where if we've done real well in a market, you're looking to use the exact same campaign that we did for that market to start up a business in that same market, assuming that there's no conflict of interest there, you're in a different geographic market or territory or whatnot, you can actually get from us the exact campaign. So in other words, we will manage your campaigns. We will give you the campaigns and ads that already generate millions of dollars in sales and profitably in that market. So you could use that exact same setup for your own campaigns that you run in that same market. So essentially you could start up a business, use our campaigns, outsource the work to somebody else, and have a business that's already profitable basically right away. There's also product campaigns or e-commerce campaigns that we've run for e-commerce businesses that the company fundamentally has shifted to something else, and the campaigns still would work to this day. If you want to start up an e-commerce business, we could give you campaigns that you could use to start up a business and not have to go through the hassle of setting up and learning and testing all the PPC campaigns that you would set up for yourself to find out what works. Just use what we know already works and we've ran before. So if you're interested in that type of thing, you can see what markets we've got proven results in and the estimated results for those markets if you contact our firm. Maybe we have also a market where we've gotten results, multi-million-dollar a year sales results that you're already in right now, and would you pretty much hit the jackpot reaching out to us and then just using what we're already using for that market. So if you're interested in that, reach out to our firm. I'll wrap it up with that. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in my next video where we have another great strategy for you to be able to make some more money with PPC. See you there.